Welcome everyone to our Saturday morning webinar. And my name is Judy Feldhausen. I'm so happy to be here today to co-host the webinar with my good friend, Bob Wischmeier.
Good to be here. So good.
It is. And we've got such it's such a good topic today, and one that we talk about not only with the rest of the group, but even Bob and I with each other about the importance of lifting up your mind with self-development. It's just it's just something that we need to do. Something that I was not taught as a child. I don't know about anyone else on the webinar, but um, I was not taught about self-development as I was growing up. Actually, I was told by my mom that we are born into this life in a certain place, and we must accept what that place is and make the best of it, and not to ever expect anything more. So, growing up through my young adult years, I think that kind of always stayed in my mind until finally I figured out, hey, I can really make a difference here, and all I have to do is work on it myself, not expect other people to do that for me. So really um, when I finally sat down and did that looking it within myself and what I needed to do to find a new place for me and to learn how to really dream big. Such a big moment for me. I don't know, Bob, if you ever had any moments like that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that has really been the highlight of the webinars that you and I have been doing the last few years with regard to, um, you know, self-development or whatever, any kind of a leadership development, is that we do tend to make this a little bit personal, and it's because it the subjects that we approach allow us to do that. We need to do that to kind of add our own flavor to things, and it gets a little bit personal sometimes. Your thoughts just now are personal, and I have the same feelings. I grew up in an alcoholic family. It was not easy. It was hard, to be honest. I can't lie. Growing up in the house that I grew up in, I love my parents. Don't get me wrong. I love them, but there was it was a really dysfunctional life, and my sisters and I have talked about it many times as adults as we've grown up. I just early on, I think, determined that there would be things that I wouldn't be doing with my own life when I got older, and as a result of kind of that background, that challenging world that we lived in, I have never felt like I was a victim of circumstance or my environment or anything like that. Always in the back of my mind was that I needed to look within, find some a clean slate and move forward myself with my own life. And when I had a family, things that I would do with my family that I wouldn't do with my family, that I was taught by my own family. And it all comes back to self-development, creating your own world away from the struggles that you face. So, this is good stuff to me. Lift up your mind with self-development is extremely important. So, yeah, I feel the same way, Judy. You just got to kind of rise above your circumstances and grab the world and move forward. Open your mind. Use it. You can't go through life just with an emotional mindset. You've got to intellectually stop and think about what you're doing with your life, and then adjust accordingly. So, yeah, Judy, that's my thought.
Yeah, that's so true. And and as we live, we really develop habits, and some of those habits that we have are um, are are I'm so sorry, supporting us, and some of them do not. And the neat thing about habits, I think, is that habits are really hard to break, but they are easier to replace. And when I started looking at habits as replaceable, it really opened up something for me, because I was, I would try to break the snacking, or um, some of the other habits that I had. And when I figured out that I could find something to replace it, I've had a lot of friends that were smokers, and so many times those smokers years and years ago would start chewing gum, and that's exactly what they were doing, is that they were replacing the habit from what they didn't want to where they wanted to be. And we used to do this 21-day challenge call, and that's really what that was all about, was to create those new habits a little by little. It takes a long time to develop it, but it takes um, it takes it one day to break it. And we say that they say it takes 21 days to create a habit. And I think that is 21 focused days. And if on day 20, we don't continue with that habit, that we have to start back again at day 1.
Yeah, it's really a challenge, isn't it? It's so easy to fall out of a good habit. I don't know. We just seem to have these. All of us, I think, have this default where we drop off to something else, kind of a lower denomination or something, and like reading 30 pages a day. That Jeff Olson in his Slight Edge book says to read 10 pages a day. Even reading 10 pages a day of serious reading requires effort. We don't always do that. 30 pages a day is Les Brown's suggestion, but that's a lot of pages of books to read a day. You really have to block out a block of time in the day in order to do that. But boy, the consequences of that. It's like Stephen Covey says, what is one thing that you could start to do today that you're not already doing that would have a tremendous growth impact on your life? One thing that you could start doing that you're not doing. And when I think about that, it's like, well, there are several things that I could start doing today that I'm not doing that would have a profound impact on my life going forward. So yeah, developing habits is extremely important for all of us, not just our business, but our personal lives as well, Judy.
Yes, and I read a quote uh, this week where it said that in order for having the good things in your life that you want, you really have to make room for it. And that really struck me, because we're so busy, especially this time of year around the holidays. We've got added things to our plates. But if we can sit down and say, where in my day do I have room for this thing that I love, or this thing that I want to make better in my life? And just that awareness is such a great first step to creating a habit.
It is. And part of that is that finding a quiet place to do some thinking. That's one of the struggles, I think, in the world that we live in today, is that there are so few quiet places, quiet moments. I live way out in the country, and so my world, my farming world, my ranching world, I've got, canyon land and timber all around and grain fields. It's just beautiful. And yesterday, I'd hiked down to the end of my pasture, and I had a burn pile there that I was going to torch off and get rid of. Well, I had to stay down there by that fire until it burned down, which meant I was just down there, not doing anything except a pitchfork and, feeding this burn pile that I was taking care of. But it created for me, I knelt down on the ground down there at the end of the pasture and just started thinking about life. I started thinking about what are some of these things, these adjustments that I need to make. It's quiet here, it's peaceful here. And it created an opportunity for me to really stop and think about the day. What am I doing? I've got some quiet time here. I'm just kneeling down here. What should I do? What can I do to take advantage of this quiet time? And for me, that was a reflection time. a prayer time, a reading time. I pulled out my phone and I did some reading on my phone. I read an article. I read in my Bible. I did some things like that in that quiet time. And so we need to look for those quiet moments in life where we can reflect. What do I need to do? What habit do I need to change?
Yes, because so many of us really have been inside that box, right? And we tend to call that box our comfort zone. But when I was looking for a box, I found this beautiful box online, and I was thinking about it. How wonderful it is, and we think that our the place we are in is beautiful, and all the treasures that we have are inside this beautiful box. And that may not be true, because some of the greatest treasures lie outside of our comfort zone.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. And I think that, the box is a good reflection here. It's a good mental picture, because we put up our own barriers, I think, in life. Our comfort zone. We put walls around the things that are comfortable to us, that we're familiar with, that bring it. Like I love my little house. I have a little farmhouse out in the country. I love it. It's like these walls in this little building are very, very comfortable to me. I love it here. But sometimes the barriers that we put up, the walls we put up to create the comfort zone that we live in, that we go through life with, are really kind of artificial barriers. They can be changed. They can be moved. They don't have to be there. I was thinking, as I was going through this, I was thinking about my youngest son, who's a captain in the United States Army. And all his life growing up, Spud had a fear of heights. He really did. I mean, even getting up on a ladder, he was extremely uncomfortable. And he's a tough guy. I mean, he played college rugby. He's in the Army. He's a tough guy. But he has always had a terrible fear of heights. I watched that young man go to airborne school, Army airborne school, where you have to climb up those towers and jump off the towers, get up in airplanes and leap out of airplanes, that kind of thing. Talk about pushing aside an artificial barrier, even a real barrier, whatever, getting past your comfort zone. He went to airborne school and graduated from airborne school. And I'll tell you, great things never come from comfort zones. It's when you push beyond that comfort zone and do things that are so outside of it that you really grow. And I knowing this fear of heights that Spud has always had, and watching him do what he did was phenomenal. As a father, I can't even begin to tell you how proud of him I was. And sometimes those comfort zones are physical. I mean, we go through things. I always look around at people I know, people who I love, to see, what are people doing. And my little sister Mary, okay, I need to probably define little sister, because she's 66. So, but she's still my little sister, right? But my sister Mary had breast cancer, and as a result, and she's single and by herself, lives alone with her Chihuahua dog. But she had breast cancer, and it was devastating. Our mom died of cancer. My sister Cheryl died of cancer. Mary had cancer. She had multiple surgeries, went through, it was really tough, and chemotherapy, and lost her hair, and all of those things. You guys know what this is all about. But she survived it all. And I have a picture on my phone that my nephew took of my sister Mary post-surgeries, post-cancer, on a climbing wall in Arizona, as she regrouped her life. She was on a climbing wall. I think about that pushing through all that physical morass that she had to go through, and then challenging herself on a climbing wall. I mean, it's attitude, it's perspective. And I really appreciate that, Judy.
And as we mature, we have physical limitations put on many of us. There's so many of my clients that can't move around the way that they used to, that put themselves into almost into the box where they've been out of their comfort zone for so many years. But as they get physical limitations, they go back into creating their smaller world. And fortunately, we have such an awesome product in Perarginine Plus that allows people to go back and really get their life back. There's so many stories that I hear about people that have been able to re-engage because of the energy, because of the better feeling health-wise that they have. It's, to me, it's absolutely amazing. Myself, pushing myself back from my surgery after I fell, not an easy thing to do. Not an easy thing to do, but
Yeah. We need everybody to mute out your phones if you don't mind. We're getting a little background there. But Judy, yeah, talk about getting out of your comfort zone. That surgery you had was intense. That was tough stuff.
and you really have to, that's the times when you have to sit down with yourself and say, am I going to accept what I have here, or is there going to be, am I going to be able to have a difference here and make a difference?
Yeah, it's great pushing through that comfort zone. There's some advantages that we have today as well, just by virtue of the time that we live in. And that's little things like Fitbits and apps on your phone where you can keep track of how many steps you've taken during the course of the day. Those kinds of little things help us with this physical side of getting out of our comfort zone and moving forward. They're inspiring, I think. They certainly are to me, to be able to have that kind of technology at our fingertips. But also, we have some mental comfort zones that we need to get out of. We really do need to build some mental toughness in our lives. I think it's, at our house, in my family anyway, this has been a rather difficult year. And I'm not going to lie, it's been a tough year. And there's been a time or two where I've almost felt like I've had to walk through the valley of the shadow of death. It's just a reality. And I think that for me, both my mental and spiritual strength, if you will, has been challenged over the last few months. It's a tough thing to lose a son. It's just very hard, and so there have been times, and, we're still going through it. I've really had to look for strength, mental strength, outside of me. I've had to turn to some other sources, to my faith, to friends, for a little strength to help me work through some of the challenges that Bonnie and I have had to go through, and our kids have had to go through since September. But I think, too, mentally we're stronger maybe than we realize. We can do hard things. We really can. Sometimes it hurts right now, but as you deal with these difficult mental things, it makes you stronger. I think out of adversity comes strength. Judy?
Yeah, and it really is just being able to every day have an increase, take a little step, and by doing that, before you know it, a long time has gone by and a lot of strength has been gained.
Well, yeah, and you don't have to make giant leaps every day either. Just a little step, one little thing. Push those boundaries just a little bit. Get out of that comfort zone physically. Do some things physically, mentally. I went, just a little side note with regard to Pro-Arginine Plus and nitric oxide therapy. I had a blood drive earlier this week on Tuesday. Went into town and to the blood drive, and my blood pressure was 114/70 when I was in there. And I commented to the gal that was taking my blood pressure and checking my hemoglobin count, my resting heart rate and stuff. And I just made the comment. I said, that's some good blood pressure. And she said, it certainly is. What medications are you on? I said, well, I'm not on any. And I'm almost 68 years old. Nitric oxide therapy, it's the bomb, I'm telling you. So, we push our comfort zone a little bit, we push our mental zone a little bit, and we move forward. Great stuff. Self-development, Judy. That's what it's all about.
It really, really is. And I really like the quote that that Les Brown made about what we're doing now, physically, mentally, it might be difficult now. He says it hurts now, but one day this will become your warm up. And that's so true.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I like it. So yeah, we got to start our day out right. For years, seriously, you guys, I've worked with young men's programs for almost my entire adult life in one way or another. I've got another Eagle Scout Court of Honor coming up for one of my boys, if you will, next Sunday. But I have taught this principle that the first two disciplines of the day are to make your bed and say your prayers, starting your day out right. That's been my mantra for years and years and years. Make your bed, say your prayers. Get those first two disciplines out of the way and start your day out right.
So true. And it just always reminds me of a coaching client that I had, and I'm sure I've shared this story before, but he was just stuck, and by mid-afternoon he wanted to take a nap and just was not getting anywhere in his life. And so what we did is we helped him start his day out right, and that was the simple act of making his bed. And in mid-afternoon, when he wanted to go take his nap, he'd walk into the bedroom and go, "Oh, my bed's made. I'll have to remake it if I take a nap." And that one little discipline absolutely changed his life, because he'd walk out of the bedroom and continue with his day.
Simple things, huh? Well, yeah, it's next Saturday, Dan Hammer's going to be hosting the webinar about marketing nitric oxide therapy. And when you stop and think about the business that we're in, as independent Synergy Worldwide distributors, nitric oxide therapy is a huge marketing platform for us. Les Brown talks about how important it is in the morning, when you get up in the morning, to start your day out right, to get your blood moving. Get that blood moving. And nitric oxide therapy, where we have oxygenated blood flow improvement, is exactly the right thing to do. That's the right format for the day. Get that oxygenated blood flow moving. Do something. Move your body. Keep going. Sometimes you have to. I made myself a little note here, I guess. It says, note to self: we can get out of a habit quicker than into one. Stop, regroup, begin again. We only get one body in this lifetime. It was a little note to myself, but certainly there's an application here with respect to self-development, starting our day out right.
Absolutely. And to continue every day, to always be growing. I have a friend that's 83 years old, and she is absolutely amazing. And that's exactly what she does. And she's had some challenges lately with some surgeries, but every day she says, "I've got to be better than I was yesterday." And she walks with a hacky sack ball, and is continually throwing it so she can get better and stay coordinated and not lose what she has gained, but to continue to always be growing. And to lately she's added math problems while she's walking, throwing the hacky sack. Then she'll add numbers together in her head. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing to me that no matter what your age is, that doesn't mean that it's time to retire. You can not do your job anymore, but you still want to self-improve, to make it better, not only for you, but for the family that you have, for the ones that you love. I think we have to think about that legacy that we are leaving, especially at the end of our lives as we mature, to be that great character for our family and for our friends and for those children and grandchildren that we have, so that they know that as they grow, they can continue to be growing personally and professionally.
It's just so important, Judy. You know, Bonnie's dad, my father-in-law, Jim Rasmussen, is 88 years old. He was one of my first customers when I started with Synergy Worldwide. He continues to take Pro-Argine Plus every day. 88 years old. He walks on a treadmill every day. If he's sitting down, he's reading, studying. He goes to a little place called the Happy Factory, where they make little wooden toys and give these toys away all over the world. They ship them all over to orphanages, to schools. They're beautiful little wooden toys. They make them, it's free. And Jim goes there 4 hours a day, 5 days a week at age 88 and sands and connects those little wooden toys. What an inspiration at age 88 he is to all of us. Always growing, always looking forward, doing something with his life, even in his advanced years, to make a difference in the world. I love that. And so, yeah, if we're going to be developing, continuing to improve and self-develop, we don't stop. We just keep going.
Yep. And it really makes our life full when we continue to do that.
You know, we've only got just a couple of minutes left here, Judy. I'm just looking at my computer here. What do you think time-wise? Should we go ahead and open this up for a question or two?
I think that's a great idea.
We'd love to hear from everyone on the webinar. So if anybody has a thought or question to share, this is a good time to do it. Judy's got to be leaving in a couple of minutes. She's got a long drive, but we'd love to hear from you. So anybody want to open up their mics and ask a question or make a comment, please do so.
Well, we must have done a great job, Bob.
Thank you, Bob and Judy.
I can hear cricket.
Oh, yeah, I changed my name to Cricket, so that's why. So thank you, Annette. Appreciate your insights, and I always think that the one book that you mentioned it, Bob, in your earlier presentation today. The oh gosh, we used it for a training, the Slight Edge.
Yeah, Slight Edge.
You know, that from a person who really wants to take steps in this area of personal development, the starting point would be getting the Slight Edge and disciplining yourself to read that book every day.
It's a profound read. It really is. You know, I bought copies of that and sent it to all of my adult children. I haven't really followed through to see whether they read it or not, but I bought it for them because it is powerful, Dan, and can really change your life. Well, Judy, any other thoughts before we close our webinar for today?
Well, just, thank everyone for being here, and, just continue to just do what we can on a daily basis and develop those muscles, both physically and mentally. And, we're all surprised by what we can accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely. So next Saturday, Dan's going to be talking about marketing nitric oxide therapy. What a powerful thing to talk about. Nitric oxide therapy, I think, in a large measure, has changed my life. I don't know whether it's safe to say that it saved my life, but perhaps when you go from 160/90 blood pressure regularly, like I was, to 114/70 without medication is a profound thing. You can't quantify that expression that I feel better, but you can certainly quantify the numbers. And when those numbers change that dramatically in your life, that's huge, and it's profound. So looking forward to that, Dan, next Saturday as we talk about nitric oxide therapy and its value and how to market it, because we want to be able to share that with others. So you guys, thank you all so much. Judy, have a safe trip today. Well, I guess that's it. God bless you all, and we'll see you all again before you know it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, guys.